We wonder if there's something more terrifying than a nuclear war. Because, after all, if such a war happens, the first thing everyone would look for is the safest place to go. This, of course, isn't the easiest thing to do because a nuclear war would definitely be on a global level. But don't lose hope. We'll tell you all the countries that would be the safest in a nuclear war. Let's get started. First off, you can be the safest if you get to hide in Iceland. Iceland, being a secluded country, is the safest place to go when a nuclear war breaks out. It's a small island and is practically isolated because the North Atlantic Ocean surrounds it completely, and no other country has any physical borders with it. On top of that, the population here is less than 400,000 people as of 2020. So yeah, it's not a very great target for nuclear strikes. According to the latest reports, Iceland's isolated geography, geothermal energy, and lack of military make it the safest in global crisis situations because it's not even near another country and is like a stranded island in the North Atlantic Ocean. It's almost impossible for a nuclear missile to reach the country without getting detected beforehand. And even if a missile somehow manages to get there, its small population will come in handy because fewer people living in an area means less damage. Not just that, Iceland is one of the few countries with no standing army or a military force. That helps make it a safe space because the attackers have no one to fight with. In short, there's no target for a nuclear weapon. People working in vital infrastructures, such as airports and power plants, may be at risk, but they can also find shelter underground and stay safe from radiation exposure. And the best thing about the country is that they produce electricity from geothermal sources, meaning if the whole electrical grid went down, the country would still have the power to provide for its residents. Next up, Australia. If you look up the safest places in the world, Australia will most definitely be on the list. The country has all the resources required to stay safe in case nuclear war erupts. The country is vast and has a smaller population than other countries with the same kind of resources and area. With very few population centers, it doesn't make a very great target for the enemies. And most importantly, if the country is attacked, there would be very few casualties. And unlike Iceland, Australia boasts a strong military force and an alliance with the US, which makes it extra safe because the country is under double protection. Not just that, Australia as a nation is quite experienced in recuperating from such disasters. For example, the infamous bushfires. This means that even if something goes wrong, the country's people will somehow overcome nuclear warfare. And yes, Canada is also on the list because why not? Canada and the US have strong relationships, and this is one major reason why it might be one of the safest countries to flee to when a nuclear war breaks out. This strong military relationship means that if one of these countries is under attack, the other one would be there to provide aid. Not just that, apart from having a strong military alliance, Canada has a massive land area, meaning its population is spread over a wide landmass, which means it's nearly impossible for any nuclear strike to wipe out the whole country. On top of that, several areas of Canada are very isolated and have very little population, meaning if you choose the right part to hide in, you can stay safe from the horrors of a nuclear world. Well, not entirely, but you know, life is what you need to save. Oh, and just so you know, nuclear accidents aren't really a new thing for Canadians. They've had their fair share of such experiences, but that makes the country even safer because the authorities there work so fast, you won't even know when they handled it all. So yeah, that's where you should go. And how can we forget New Zealand? You must already know how famous New Zealand is for being peaceful and idyllic. Well, did you also know that some recent studies have proved that this country is one of those that can actually survive a nuclear crisis? According to research conducted by the University of Southampton, New Zealand is one of the few countries that stay safe from nuclear attacks because of the distance they have from major targets. Not just that, just like Iceland, this country is also low on population and military infrastructure, which makes it least likely to get caught up in any nuclear conflict. So, if you're someone living in New Zealand or Australia, you have nothing to worry about the most. And even if your country gets in trouble, know that the authorities know what to do in such situations. Not just that, Finland is also a safe choice. We can't say that Finland would be the safest place ever, but we can assure you that this country is much safer compared to many others. First of all, it's pretty much isolated from the rest of the European countries, which does not make it an important target. Not just that, it has a small population while the land area is much larger. This means that not many people would be affected if any attack occurred. Secondly, the Finnish civil civil defense system is much stronger than you might think. Their system includes perfect evacuation plans, as well as proper shelters for any affectees. Apart from that, the buildings in the country follow designs approved by the government. The laws require the building owners to follow designs that guarantee to withstand a 20-kiloton nuclear bomb explosion. If you don't know how much that is, go and look for the bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima. And if you're living in Finland, you'll be provided with emergency water, food, and medicines because the government there tends to stockpile all this stuff. So if something happens, Finland probably has better ways of coping with the situation than the countries closer to targets. Or you can go to Sweden. Apparently, Sweden is also considered a very safe country because the homicide rate there is the third lowest in the world. We know it doesn't matter when talking about a whole nuclear war, but just giving an example, Sweden has held a strong neutrality and non-alignment policy for a long time. This means that this country doesn't take sides when international conflicts arise. It's like they stay silent and let the rest of the world do whatever they want. Do you want to stay friends? Very good. Do you want to fight? Go on, do it. The Swedish do not care. Not just that, apart from their strong policies, they also have a very well-developed civil defense system. So if any country crosses the limits and attacks, the Swedish citizens are trained and advised to go indoors immediately until the all-clear signal is given. Furthermore, the Swedish government also tends to stockpile emergency resources like food and water and has even built underground shelters for its citizens. So if you think you can move to Sweden, do it as soon as possible because the country is much safer. Also, if you think Thailand might also be a safe place, you're right. As we said earlier, no place is 100% safe when it comes to war. So terrifying. But if we think about it, Thailand is probably another safer country to go to in case something goes wrong. Like other countries we talked about, it's also pretty secluded and isn't near any potential adversaries either. Apart from that, the country is located in Southeast Asia, which will count as a benefit because apparently there aren't any nuclear targets in that area. On top of that, Thailand is protected by nature. What else would you say when you see that the country is surrounded by large bodies of water that'll stop the radiation from getting into the country and causing any harm? Another thing to note here is that Bangkok, the capital of Thailand, has the best hospitals in the whole of Southeast Asia. The facilities there are great. They most definitely have everything required to treat patients in critical condition due to bombing or nuclear radiation. The military forces are well trained and have some of the best weapons to defend the country. And apart from that, the country shares exceptional bonds with the US government, which means they are promised protection and assistance if something happens. And most importantly, even if an attack occurs, the country has a strong infrastructure and economy, meaning its chances of standing back on its feet are high. One example of such economic redevelopment was when the country faced a crisis due to the pandemic. It only took them a year and a half to bring it back on the path of recovery. In short, they have the resources to quickly provide their citizens with basic requirements and heal from the damage too. And with this, it's time for us to wrap this video up, fam. Which country do you think would be the safest? Do let us know in the comments below. Also, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. We'll soon be back with more amazing videos. See you in the next one.